This is Healing with Haley, episode 15, The Target Miracle.
Is it possible that you are the cause of your own suffering? Are you thinking thoughts that are preventing you from getting your life to the next level? My name is Haley Kirk, and I'm a life coach, mom, entrepreneur, and fierce friend here to show you how to be the hero of your story.
Welcome, you guys. It is Wednesday, April 10th at 11:14 p.m. And I have been procrastinating this episode. I'm not sure why, but hey, I'm here. We're doing it. We're getting it done. I really enjoy my evenings. I can just relax and chill. And it's just not a good mode to do productive things, but here we are. So, I want to share with you guys something that happened that was just a miracle. I just want to call it that. So, I went to Target after, a major cry session because I just had to get, all the emotions out. And there's been a lot of changes in my life. So, it's definitely something where you want to allow the emotions and purge them out, like vomit, right? Because emotions can kind of build up that way. And so I'm at Target. I get my cute things for Israel, his cute little outfits, my 18-month-old. And then I also got some fruit and some food for him and me. And then I go to the checkout. And as I'm on my way to the checkout, you know how there's the light, but no one's there. So I'm like, is there someone there? And then I see this girl walking up to the counter. I'm like, oh, okay, so she's there. And I say, hey, good morning. And she just kind of glares at me. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's one of those days. That's all right. So we're putting things on. And then Israel starts crying. And then we're putting things onto the little conveyor belt for them to ring up the items. And Israel's in the shopping cart, and he's kind of whining a little bit. And then she retorts, what are you crying about? And I thought she was kind of being playful, but I learned it wasn't playful later on. And mind you, this is the beginning of the day. I went super early. I went at like 8 a.m. to go to Target. So beginning shift, right? Beginning of the day, we're starting with this attitude to start the day. Just interesting to observe. And then so I am at the checkout and I had to get a new card. And so they told me that the Apple Pay had been activated while I wait for the physical card to come. And so the Apple Pay wasn't working. And so I tried a few times and it just wasn't working. I'm like, man, this stinks because, I have all my funds on this account, but I have like $15 on another bank card. And I don't use credit cards. I just refuse to use credit cards because your girl can't control herself and will just go cray-cray on a credit card. So go cray-cray on a credit card. I like that. That's fun. So then she's kind of, huffing and puffing and upset. And so she just starts taking things off. And I'm like, oh, no, wait, and I told her, I said, I have to take off some things. And then I said, but I want to keep the food items. And I don't think she heard me, but she just started taking off everything. I'm like, no, like I want to keep the food items because Israel had been munching on them. So I wanted to make sure I paid for them. And then she's like, oh, well, then that means I have to ring up everything that I just took off. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then the guy behind me, he had one item and it was like laundry pods. And he was so sweet and kind. And he said, no, put everything back on. I got you. I'm going to pay for it. And I looked at him. I wasn't expecting it. And I was so surprised. And I said, no, like it's fine. Like I'm just going to get these little things. It's fine. And he says, no. And he looks me straight in the eye and he says, I got you. And I just started to cry. It felt so good to hear that from someone. I got you. I got you. I got you. And it was this masculine provider protector energy that I was getting from him. It was totally genuine, not trying to hit on me, not any ulterior motive at all. And I was just blown away. I was blown away that he wanted to do this just out of the kindness of his heart. He saw that my son was frustrated, and in addition, so he was like, you know, that section of a shopping cart where you can put a baby to sit down. So he was pulling that out and in, out and in, out and in, and making lots of noise. And then the cashier said, "Okay, baby, okay, we get it." And at that point, I was like, "Oh my goodness, are you really gonna like say this to my son?" But I was flustered, so I didn't have the mental capacity to like give her a retort back. And I was just overwhelmed by this kindness. Like I was really blown away, and I was moving really slowly because I was just like, is this really happening? Like, does he mean it? Because it was a $90 purchase, right? And it wasn't cheap. He really wanted to just help a mom out, you know? And it really felt so genuine. And he like bolted out. He didn't want any, let me get your number, or like, you know, hey, da da da. He just wanted to do this one act of kindness. And it meant the world to me. He did more for my heart than for my wallet or material things, right? He fed my soul rather than my belly. He gave me hope that I had been kind of missing, I guess, maybe. You know how you hear all the terrible things in the news and all those things, and it's just one of my close friends, he told me, he said, you know what Mr. Rogers says to reporters that ask him, you know, why are you always so happy? And he, in such a dark world, and he says, I look to the helpers. I look to the helpers. Wow. That's powerful. And what we focus on, right? Energy flows. Where focus goes, energy flows. Tony Robbins quote. And it's so true. We could truly choose to see the world the way we're thinking, right? If I believe the world to be evil, I'm going to find evil. If I believe the world to be good, I'm going to find goodness. And maybe I agree that there's both parts. I like to believe that there is more goodness than evil. I agree that evil exists and trauma and all those things, but I think there's more goodness, much more. And that's just how I choose to live and believe. It helps me operate well in this world. So wow. And in honest, these past couple months have been a challenge for me emotionally. And it's just so interesting how some of the people that I tell about these challenges and emotions, sometimes they'll tell me, don't be sad. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. I need to be sad or experience these emotions and go through these challenges. I absolutely do. And it's interesting that I find myself wanting to defend being sad. Like I didn't want them to notice that I was sad. I wanted to hide it in a way. And when they say it, I feel a little embarrassed. Like, oh, like, why are you sad? Like, don't be sad. And it's like my secret's out. And I just wonder, like, why is it so normal for us to hide emotion? And I think that emotion is actually such a beautiful way to tap into our humanity. And not only our humanity, but our authenticity. And I think to be authentic or to be true, in other words, is to be vulnerable. And one of my favorite speakers on vulnerability is Brene Brown. And she said something that I never left me. She said, "We are the most in debt, obese, addicted, and medicated adult cohort in U.S. history." Yikes. And she alludes to that reason being is because we just don't allow vulnerability. We don't express emotion, we suppress it. And when we suppress it, it just creates a whole bunch of buffers. And buffers are just ways to avoid negative emotion, right? Quote unquote negative. And I think all emotions are honestly just so beautiful. When I had this Target miracle, I allowed myself, instead of being all embarrassed at how overwhelmed, the overwhelming joy and hope and love I felt from this total stranger, it enhanced the experience. And I'm sure that it permeated to him and to the cashier. Like the cashier was in a grumpy mood already, but I think her being able to see an act of like genuine kindness could have influenced her to maybe think about life in a different way. Maybe. And I could be totally wrong, and I'm happy to be, but at least it was a little nugget, a little glimpse of goodness in the world, And I just remember my days working in fast food, and In-N-Out Burger was where I worked for like 3 or 4 years in college, and I loved it. Just made my day when someone would say like, "Hey, I want to pay for the next car," and then the next person would be like, "Oh, like I'll pay for the next car." It was such a fun way to see a chain reaction. Just it's so beautiful. And then you would see there were kind of like common homeless people that would ask for food or money, and so many people would like bring out burgers to him, or he would come in and bring money he got from panhandling to come in and get himself a burger or just kind of get warm. And it's just so beautiful how a little act of kindness can go a long way. And also how much these little wonders, these little acts of service, these little nuggets really are examples to us of how to find light in a dark time. And I expressed that I've been going through some challenges in my life, and I feel that this miracle, this Target miracle, really is a light for me. And I'm going to totally nerd out here and share a quote, or the scene. If you guys remember the scene where Galadriel, she's like this beautiful, angelic elf, and she's bestowing these gifts to the hobbits, and she gives, I'm forgetting their names, Pippin and I forget the other one, but the two brothers, so little daggers, and they're pretty cool. She gives Samwise this rope. I think she ended up giving the dwarf like a lock of her hair, and then she gives Frodo this light. And what she says to him is this: "May it be a light to you in dark places when all other lights go out." May it be a light to you in dark places when all other lights go out. And something that I practice every day is it's priming my mind. And in that priming, I got this from Tony Robbins. What he does, and what I try to do, because I really look up to him and think that he's a person of results and gratitude and fulfillment and authenticity. He does 3 moments of gratitude that you could be really grateful for, and then he visualizes those moments. And that's the first part of the priming. And I love that part because it allows me to go back into my past. And it's so easy for us to ego goes past future all day long. But it's usually the negative, right? And I love being able to focus on the positive or the things that really, whoa, like I'm just so grateful for that genuine act of kindness that man gave me. And it's so important for us to have kind of those bookmark events in our day. It could be something so small. Like, I'm so grateful for my child's smile, for my child's laughter. I'm so grateful that I have food to give to my child. I'm so grateful that I was able to just read a book with him today. And it could be tiny. I'm so grateful I made my bed today. I'm so grateful I drank water today. And it was clean water. I'm grateful for my health today. And it's these lights that really help us get through dark times. And not to say that we would wish dark times upon ourselves, but when they do come, we are mentally prepared because we've been preparing for these dark times. So I've actually recently gotten into gardening, and I love Target, and they have this garden section where they have this kit and it literally says guaranteed to grow. And I'm like, yes, I have a guarantee that I will not destroy something living. No pressure. So I totally bought a strawberry jar, and it's so cute. So they prepare the soil for you and everything, and they have like super easy instructions. And it's a company called, I think it's called like Back to the Roots. It's such a cute company. I love it. I bought a tomato one too, but I'm kind of scared to start another one until the strawberry one's successful. But I had 4 little sproutlings, but it was so interesting because like when you're preparing the soil and everything, you have to consider a lot of elements, right? Like you have to make sure that the temperature is maintained. You have to make sure that it gets enough sunlight. You have to make sure sunlight or get a heating lamp. And then you also have to make sure it's watered twice a day, but not too much, and and watered in a very specific way, not to drown the plant. And it reminds me a lot of like life or any goals that you have. Like you really have to kind of have this faith and this hope that these actions you're taking are 1, done correctly, and 2, consistently, and 3, that it will actually work out. So there's a lot of literally working in the dark because you're in the soil and you just don't know what's going on underneath. And so I really love this concept because when you harvest and plant, you plant in the spring, in summer, harvest in the fall, and then you prepare for winter. And I think life kind of has this cycle. And, granted, it's not every 3 months, but it's a lot like that, right? Like there's times in your life that it will be springtime where it's all these new adventures, new experiences, and then summer and it's fun and there's growth and livelihood and sunshine, and then fall kind of is like a abundance, a collection of all the hard work you've done, and then winter is rough. Winter is let's just survive kind of mentality. And for anyone going through a hard time or experiencing grief, and here's something I want to share about grief that I learned from this book called The Garden Within. More gardening things, right? And I had never known that there were different types of grief. There's anticipatory grief, congenital grief, ambiguous grief, and disenfranchised grief. Anticipatory grief is kind of obvious from the title, but if you're about to lose something, it could be a home. You might have lost your job and you might be going into pre-foreclosure. That kind of anticipatory grief. If you're caring for a loved one that might die soon, that's anticipatory grief. Ambiguous grief is wondering what could have been and wondering if it ever would be or what it would have been. And disenfranchised grief is an example of that would be like, parents of a stillborn child, or nurses losing a patient, or it's a little indirect but direct. So, and grief is a result of loss. And grief is sadness, anger, and fear, and it's all more than one emotion, and it's also a process. And it's one of the most egregious emotions a human can experience, and every single one of us will experience it. And so the purpose of this podcast is to give you tools on how to process emotion so that when those dark times come, you can pull goodness and there's this kind of like, the lamp that Frodo had. Like, I think it'd be so cool if we all had the lamp with us and we had that as a tool when we're going through dark times. So some thoughts that I think could be like a light is, no pain, like emotion lasts forever. And when we're really afraid to process an emotion, like an uncomfortable emotion or quote unquote negative emotion, it doesn't last forever. That's a very comforting thought. And I've also found that a thought that really helps me during dark times or hard times is what can I learn from this experience? How can this expand me? How can I find purpose? Or how can I just find meaning right now? Or how can I make today a little more bearable? And give ourselves the grace that, especially if you're going through a period of grief, is to give yourself that grace, right? Your best is not going to be the best that you are in spring, right? Your best is definitely going to be different compared to winter. And winter would definitely, the example we're giving of like seasons, if you're experiencing grief, you're definitely in a season of your life of winter. And so you just kind of want to give yourself that awareness and that consciousness that, I'm in the thick of it. I'm in the winter phase of my life right now, and that's okay. And I really like this life coach. Her name's Brooke Castillo, and she has these amazing, powerful beliefs and thoughts that I think are so empowering. And it's that of, life's 50-50. Life's 50% amazing and 50% hot mess and sad and hard. And right now I'm in that phase. I'm in that part of life right now. So I hope that this episode has given you some tools or some ideas on how to really pull the light when it just seems like there's just no more light to be found. And to even be that light for others, right? So if you I think that a way that you could do that for others is to just hold space for them. And, if you know someone going through a hard time, say, hey, how can I show up for you? Do you want me to just listen? Do you want me to give you advice? Do you want me to find resources for you? I mean, and the best phrasing that guy gave me was, I got you. I got you. How generous of a phrase is that? What if we could say that to some of our friends or loved ones that might be going through a hard time? I got you. I got you. Whatever it is, I got you. We're going to go through this together. And I'm going to show up for you in the ways that I know how, in the ways that I can. Because, everyone has their lives and their responsibilities, but you're going through a hard time, I got you. Oh, what a weight. What a weight lifted. So, yeah, if you're going through a winter, maybe share some of the acorns that you harvested in the spring and summer times. Maybe share some acorns with your neighbor in the other tree. All right, I'm getting cheesy with cheesy anecdotes. Time to end the podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you spending time with me, learning, growing, becoming more aware human beings. I ask that you would please send this to someone that you think would benefit, that it would be fun to talk about, and I would love a 5-star review. It really helps our podcast grow and thrive. So thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next one. If you're looking to change your life in 2024, look no further. I have a coaching program built just for you. Each month, we will dive deep into limiting belief systems, thought patterns, habits, and so much more to take your dream life and make it a reality. Sign up for my 12-month coaching program before spots fill up. I'm only taking 15 clients who are serious about taking massive action towards their dream life. I'll see you in the program.